Welcome to Jenkins and Jonez on the Volume Podcast Network. It is Thursday, July 22nd, and obviously we're talking about the NBA Finals Championship, the Bucks winning, Giannis winning. We have a special episode. We were joined for just a very long interview talking about the game with our good friend Nick Wright. So you're going to love that. As always, Jenkins and Jonez, hosted by my good friends LeJethro Jenkins, a.k.a. John.
What's up, Bubbas?
Dragonfly Jones, a.k.a. Tyler.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Tyler is coming to us with the Giannis jersey draped over his shoulder, which is great. That's how we're going to be doing this show. That's the whole offseason. That's the agenda for the whole offseason. All right. Well, stick around after the break. We're going to have Nick on for a very tenable interview.
Tenable indeed.
All right, we're joined by our special guest for the day, Nick Wright, obviously the legend. Nick, thank you for hopping on with us. We appreciate it. We're just going to talk about basketball for a half hour, man. What a great fucking game that was. How's everybody feeling?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to go first or not, but I'm going to go first anyway. I got to say, thank you for having me on. And what the hell took you guys so long? I imagine it's that my old internet friend Tyler was like, we should get Nick on. And then John's like, if we can fit it between my rounds of golf. And then Mike was like, Mike was like, I fucking told you guys his old Kobe Bryant tweets. I'm still not over him. He's not coming on the pod. And so I'm glad that finally I've gotten the invite. Thank you for having me on, and on a momentous day, on a big day.
A huge fucking day.
I have a friend who's one of the crazy Laker fans, and I know you know exactly the type of fan I'm talking about, who is guaranteed 30 seconds after the podcast comes out, gonna send me a screenshot of the podcast and a screenshot of one of your Kobe tweets and nothing else.
Definitely true. It's definitely true. Oh God! All right, so go ahead. I'll shut up now. You guys can introduce your own podcast. Get it going. I don't know what
we're going to do the intro. We did the intro, separately from you, so you don't have to listen to these guys' attempts to say their Twitter names. But I just want to whip around and talk about everyone's first reaction. Tyler's literally recording the podcast with his Giannis jersey draped over his shoulder like a fucking wrestling championship belt. Tyler, are you officially a Giannis stan from now on?
I mean, I've always been a Giannis guy. I've loved the kid since his rookie year. But shit, like these finals, bro, these fucking finals that he just had. Like I said yesterday that I hadn't seen a finals performance like this since Shaq. And like a ton of people hopped on me like, come on, man, what about Bron in 2016? And y'all know I'm the biggest fucking Bron guy on the planet, right? And Bron's 2016 finals probably get my vote as the best finals performance ever, but it's like two different categories here. Like Bron's 2016 is an all-time great, like back against the wall, overcoming adversity finals performance. Down 1-3, he goes 40 burger, game 7, triple-double, greatest block in NBA history. Mm-hmm. Giannis's 2021 finals, however, that shit was just a masterclass in domination, bro. Like 35, 13-5 on 62%. He went over 40 in 3 of the 6 games, had a 20-point quarter in game 2. Then, that game 6, 50, 14, and 5 blocks to lock up that ring, with another 20-point third quarter that game too. So while Bron's 2016 gets my vote as the best finals performance, we haven't seen a finals performance like Giannis's since Shaq's three-peat 20 years ago.
Shaq was like 33, 16, and like 8, didn't he, or some shit? Like the numbers were fucking insane. You know what I mean? But like what trips me out about Giannis is like, I remember Booker went off a screen and Giannis was like 10 feet away. Booker's butt naked and he passes the ball because Giannis is 10 feet fucking away and can push his shit to the 16th row. And that dude went on the other side of the court and put up 50 fucking points. That 4-point lead felt like a 20-point lead because you knew Giannis was going to give them a bucket every fucking time on the court. It was insane how dominant he was on both fucking ends. It blows my mind, G.
Well, and Shaq, his first finals with the Lakers was 38 points. Then it was 33. Then it was back to 35. But the collective, though, he averaged for those 3 finals like 35 and 14. And that was why I do a bunch of the best player ever discussion. There's a different discussion, which is if you could have any player in world history at the peak of his powers for one game, you could make the argument that the number one pick of that draft is prime Shaq. Because it's like, well, he's giving you 40 and 15.
Yeah.
Giannis gave us a similar finals while dominating defensively in a way Shaq never did. Shaq was a good defender and he's a great rim protector. You mentioned Devin Booker. How about the fact that DeAndre Ayton was literally shooting 71% for the playoffs, and in this series shot 50%. And like it just looked beaten down by it. And I don't know if this finals itself is the best overall finals we've ever performed. We've seen Jordan in 93 against the Suns, pretty damn good.
Yeah.
You mentioned LeBron in 16. And there are obviously some other ones, but the game 6 that he just put together is one of the 5 best finals games ever. Like Magic's has always been at the top of the list. He's a rookie. Kareem's out. How about I just give you 45, 42, 15, and 7? The underrated, what everyone calls the Willis Reed game was actually the Walt Frazier game. He had 36, 7, and 19 in a game 7. Tyler mentioned on Twitter, and I'm glad. I think Tyler and I are the only 2 people outside of San Antonio that remember Tim Duncan was 2 blocks away from a quadruple double,
right?
A quadruple double.
Right? 21, 20, 10, and 8. Yeah.
These are the and Jordan's final game ever with the Bulls, where I don't think either team cracked 90, and he had 45. Like those are, but Giannis scored 50 points on 60% shooting in a close game to win the finals, and his biggest weakness is his free throw shooting. And there was an unbelievable moment where during the broadcast, Breen was like, one game Giannis went, it was early in broadcast, 17 for 17 from the line. And Van Gundy didn't believe him. Van Gundy's like, when did that happen? Fast forward an hour later, Giannis was 16 of 17 in game 6 of the finals from the line. You can't overstate it. And I do think it makes everyone reevaluate, wait, who is the best player in the league?
This is what I think about the best player in the league shit. I don't think the universe accidentally had Bron right there when he boomed that shit. That shit felt like a fucking moment to me. And before game 6, I thought, KD's the best player in the league to me. You know what I mean? And when Bron comes back, we'll see next year. Hey, and we had, Steph in there too as well. Maybe, but probably not to me. Giannis is right there to me. It's between Giannis, KD, and Bron next year. We'll see what happens, but I don't see how we see what Giannis just did and not look at him in that fucking way. Because I don't know if, just like what KD did, I think it was a game 5 or game 4.
Game 5.
Game 5. I don't think anybody else could have done that. I don't think anybody else could have dominated the game in game 6 the way Giannis did. Only Giannis could have put that performance up. And that's how I feel. So I don't know what's going to happen next year, but Giannis is right there in that conversation to me, man.
Tyler, before I give my take, you said earlier, you're the biggest LeBron stan out there, and I agree. I don't even know who else could possibly be in that conversation. so I'd like to hear where Tyler stands on this before I give my thoughts on it.
All right. First, I want to touch on that shit John said about how it felt like destiny when Bron was there, because we saw, I shared in the group chat with the homies that quote from Akeem. Akeem Olajuwon said, the first time I saw Giannis's last name, I knew he was from my tribe. He was Yoruba. And his last name means the crown has returned from overseas. Like, you talking about some destiny shit. That's some destiny for your ass right there. But I think Giannis is in a unique situation where it's his league. He's the king of this shit right now. But I don't think he's the best player. I still think Bron is better. And I think KD is better. I think that's probably the only guys who I'll say are better than Giannis right now.
So build on both those points. First one is this. Sorry.
This video situation is actually untenable. We need to go back to the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry.
Untenable?
Yeah, it's actually like, I used a big
nigga
word.
pulled one out of Webster. This nigga said it's untenable. Yo, that shit was under the skin, bro. Jackson.
I'm sorry.
Jackson, leave that in the podcast.
Sorry.
Leave you saying it's in the
pod.
All right, I'll just start fresh. So here's the thing about LeBron being there. It's the first finals game LeBron's ever been in attendance for it that he wasn't playing it. So he had that's the game he picked to go to, and he was seated in the exact camera shot of the dunk. So that does make it feel like it was meant to be. Now on the best player stuff. LeBron hasn't been the best player in the regular season since, I would argue, 2018. 2018, that Cavs team was terrible. LeBron played all 82 and carried them. But he's kept the crown because it's like he's been better than everyone in the playoffs, and he's always playing in the last game. Well, this year, he wasn't that good in the playoffs. Now, I think it's because he was hurt, but that's also part of the thing it's like he's never hurt. So we got to be fair in all those regards. So set LeBron aside, because I feel like LeBron can, try to prove it. Everyone, because we did this before, right? I didn't, but some people did it. Like, hey, it's Steph's league now. No, it's not. Hey, it's Kawhi's league now. That was stupid. And now we'll see if the Giannis thing looks bad. When it comes to Giannis and Durant, what does Durant do better than Giannis other than shoot? He doesn't score better. He doesn't pass better. He doesn't rebound better. He certainly doesn't defend better. So to me, the KD argument is an aesthetic one, but he's so much prettier to watch. I don't care. Is he more effective, or does he have a bigger bag? Because all that's in Giannis's bag is, one MVP, a second MVP, a defensive player of the year, and now a finals MVP. That's what's clanging around in his bag. No Hezzy Jimbos, but he's just got a bunch of hardware in his bag.
I think, look, we don't do a lot of the takey best player stuff on the show, Nick, because
that's why you invited me on, buddy.
Yes, well, and you guys genuinely are better at it than us. But I will say this. Those conversations usually center around what most people are paying attention to, which is the offensive end of the floor. And the reason that I would today say, if you're asking me who I would take in the NBA today going into the playoffs, the reason it would be Giannis is because of what you started the interview talking about, which is the defense. Like, if you can score 50 points in a finals game, I think I read it was the 7th time that's ever happened. The last 2 people to do it were LeBron and Michael Jordan. You're good enough offensively. I'll take good enough with 50 points. But it's exactly what you said. The best scorer on the other team sees the dude and shits himself. And that is not happening with Kevin Durant. I don't really think Bron is taking that on until it's like the last 90 seconds of a game at this point. And in the third quarter, in the third game that they had to win, there was a little cut of every time in the last 3 minutes of the game, Giannis was within 5 feet of the basketball. It was a turnover by the Suns, right? So it's just, that's the difference to me.
How much more difficult is the game when that player that gets 50 is within 8 feet of you and you can't get a shot off?
It's impossible.
How difficult does Giannis make the other, dude? And then you have fucking Drew Holiday putting people in fucking hell, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know how we didn't see this earlier. I actually saw it at the beginning of the series. I've been in the playoffs. I said the Bucks are going to make it out. But throughout the entire playoffs, I questioned this decision. I was Suns. I said Nets at one point, you know what I mean? Dog, Giannis makes the game harder than any other player, I think. I mean, you can't stop him on one end of the court. And then you can't be within 5 feet of the motherfucker, or he's sending it to me on my couch. You know what I'm saying?
He had 5 blocks. He had 5 blocks in the clinching game, but also, as we're talking about in game 3, he turned over the other team's best guards 3 times. But you know what I mean? It's like he does anything that's needed defensively as well.
And even without the blocks, how many times did people pass up shots, or somebody had to shoot a more difficult shot because Giannis was around? You know
Booker
what I mean?
turned, and the most critical play of the series, the Drew Holiday steal to the Giannis oop, Booker turns because Giannis comes. That's the reason Booker turns. Now, Booker probably should have just pulled up a little earlier, but he gets by Tucker. Giannis is then there, so he turns, and Drew Holiday takes it from him, which I think speaks to what you're talking about.
I just don't think anybody makes it harder. So yeah, if there's one game or one person in the playoffs, it'd probably be Giannis. I hate to fucking say that because the brine that runs through my fucking veins is fighting the shit out of it. But I mean,
Tyler's not even arguing with you.
Tyler's
just listening to you talk. He's not even arguing with you.
He argued about KD, not about this. I mean,
I'll argue with you about KD, but
yeah.
But after this performance from Giannis, man, shit. I mean. And you know, I want to go back to what you said, John, about how we didn't see this coming. And it was coaching, bro. I think that's what it was. Like, we've seen how Bud gets figured the fuck out in the playoffs, right? Like, he's had, like, you know, 4 straight losses every fucking exit, you know, in the postseason because, and this goes back to why I think KD, I would still take KD over Giannis is because, you know, defenses, they kind of figured out how to limit Giannis because, you know, Giannis is a guy who lives in the paint. That's where he gets his money at. A guy like KD is going to spread the defense out, right? He 3-0 scorer. You know what I mean? He's going to get his buckets everywhere. So that's why I still think KD, you know, is better than Giannis here. But we will see next season, man, because Giannis could, for real, take the crown as the best guy in the league next season. We'll see.
Can I ask another question on this, which is everyone talked yesterday about, you know, he stayed, that Giannis decided, committed. I don't think it's irrational to say, let's say they trade for Drew, they do everything the same, trade for Drew, trade for PJ, do all those things, but Giannis hasn't signed the contract yet. I think there's like 3 times in these playoffs they lose. I think if he hasn't signed the contract yet, the pressure on him and his teammates after KD's game 5 can crush them. Wait, everyone's going to get fired? Giannis might leave? Do those guys still come through? I think game 7, when KD hits that shot, and it's like, oh my God, our entire everything is going to come down to these 5 minutes. Does that crush him? And lastly, if Giannis is a pending free agent, is he even allowed to come back from the hyperextended knee in 1 week? If Giannis hasn't signed the contract extension, does he miss the whole finals, the first few games? Like, all of those things that led to this, I don't know that any of them happen without him signing the extension before the year and putting all of that to rest.
One thing we're not talking about is that, like, people are talking about, not a lot of people though. We didn't think this motherfucker was going to even play a fucking game again in the fucking playoffs.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to miss next year.
Bro's leg went full ostrich, dog. Like, knees aren't supposed to bend like that.
Right. You feel me? Like, his knee the other way. A knee's supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, that is insane. And then he comes and does this? It's just wild. But on the other side, how do we feel about Chris Paul?
Ooh.
Like, what does this mean? This loss mean for CP3? And the motherfucker looked like he had T-Rex arms in big moments, like turning the ball over, like without even, you know what I'm saying, without, not even under duress for real, like missing shots that we've seen him be consistently hitting throughout the playoffs. Like, I don't know, bro. I still think he's one of the greatest point guards I've ever seen, but it's a big difference between him having a chip and not, I believe.
You think so?
So go ahead, Tyler,
because I honestly don't know if for me speaking, I don't know if a ring really changes how I view Chris Paul because, you know, I've got him as the 4th best point guard ever on my list behind, you know, Magic, Steph, Zeke, and Chris Paul. And I don't know if he doesn't jump with the ring for me, at least.
I agree because, and I have him as 5th, but that's because I have Oscar there, but Oscar, it's like, is he a point guard? So I think we see him the same. So the guys he's competing with, like, it's like, all right, John Stockton, not only no ring, someone should go look at John Stockton's 98 finals because they ain't great. He had a 2-point game. Like, it's not good. Jason Kidd, he did get the ring, but it's a little different. He got the ring not when he was the best player on those Nets teams. Gary Payton, he got the ring, but again, that's with the Heat. He was like 3 points a game. So the other point guard, Iverson, if you call him a point guard, he's not really shooting, but whatever. Same thing. So I thought it was important to Chris not only to get to the finals, but the way he got there. The best game of his whole career was game 6 against the Clippers. That matters. And I know he had some bad moments in the finals, but he was awesome in game 1. He was good in game 2. And what we learned in these finals was, you know which Phoenix guard is going to suck? Whichever one Drew Holiday's guarding. Last night, Drew Holiday was guarding Devin Booker, so Devin Booker was non-existent. Chris Paul's like, oh, PJ Tucker's on me again. Sweet, I'll score 25. And so I agree. I think Chris Paul, just by getting to the finals, did a lot to kind of cement himself. And like the bigger question is, we talk point guards, like Chris Paul versus Harden all time. To me, and not point guards, just like contemporaries. I think Harden has the edge. Chris Paul could have taken that edge with a title, but now it's like Harden's got the MVP, got the scoring title. I think Harden probably has the edge there.
Giannis was talking to his brother and said, I'm a champion. Nobody can take this fucking shit from me. Like, you know what I mean? There's something that comes with that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it may not have jumped him in the top 5 point guards ever or whatever, but there's something that comes with that shit. You know what I mean? And I think it's a big difference when you look at people like Chuck with a chip. Chuck was incredible, but Chuck with a chip, they're talking different on TNT. You feel what I'm saying?
And Dirk without a chip would be talked about totally different.
Right.
I think part of it is you create a set of fans that are going to like fight to the death for you. And so you just naturally, there's more voices being obnoxious on Twitter. Like Phoenix would have had they'd name everything in the city after. They would have renamed the city after him if he'd won a championship. You know what I mean?
Chris Paul, Arizona.
So this is going to sound like an odd question, but it'll come around. Am I the only person, I apologize for not knowing. Am I the only person on here that has kids? You guys, anybody else have? Oh, Mike does.
Yeah. I got 2 kids.
Mike, how old?
Just turned 8 and 5, boy and a girl.
Okay. Do either one of them like expensive foods yet?
No.
Okay. So here's why I asked. So my wife last week wanted to go out for seafood. So I have a 23-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And my wife ordered king crab legs for herself. And my 16-year-old's had that before. And she's like, oh, mommy, can I have a bite? She's like, yeah, of course. 16-year-old says to the 7-year-old, Deanna, you want to try this? And Deanna's like, no, gross, no. And I'm just sitting there like silent. I'm like, awesome. She doesn't want to try it.
Yeah, right.
The 16-year-old then convinced the 7-year-old to try it. And she was like, this is my favorite food now. I'm like, God damn. Why did you do this? Like, the 7-year-old has no concept of money. The 16-year-old's gracious enough to not ask for king crab. She sees price. 7-year-old now, every time we go out, do they have that crab thing? She's going to say, like, damn.
Like, these do not come in dinosaur-shaped nuggets.
Right. Like, she got a taste of it, and now it's all she wants. Why am I telling that story? There's a chance Chris Paul got a taste of the finals, and now that's what he cares about. The only players in league history that have made more money are LeBron, KG, and Kobe. So, am I saying there's a chance that Chris Paul says, yeah, I could take $100 million from the Knicks or whatever the Suns are going to offer me? Or, I could go to my old buddy LeBron and the Lakers for a lot less money and get right back to these finals and get this title y'all are talking about. And AD can play the 5 and LeBron can play the 4, as that should be being done anyway. And you replace Dennis bleeping Schroeder with Chris Paul. And, that's like a world that is not that irrational to think of. Now, it would cost Chris Paul like $80 million, but it could happen.
Is that the championship he would have got this year, or is that more of a J. Kidd championship, though?
Well, LeBron's going to convince him.
He got this year.
Yeah, LeBron's going to convince him that we'll make this would be part of your story. You know what I mean? Like we'll make sure you'll do at least half of the national TV interviews after the game.
Bro, Mike's dick is hard right now with this I just saw the fucking camera jump. Excitement, bro. You can't tell him things like this, man. This dude is too excited. But yeah.
Josiah sent me the Photoshop of Giannis in the Lakers jersey last night, bro. You know how Lakers fans are. Like, I can't wait for the Ayton Giannis Lakers lineup in 8 years. Oh, shit. I want to talk a little bit more about the free throws, because that's the most preposterous fucking shit to me out of this whole stat line. 50 points, unbelievable. Like we said, it almost never happened. 5 blocks, absolutely fucking crazy. But this dude's The only thing you still had to beat him over the head with this entire playoffs was his free throws. And he starts out, I believe, 17 of 18, finished 17 of 19, which was perfect because he ended at 50 even.
He did it on purpose. I
don't like, is this a zone that's accessible to us? Could I suddenly like pick up a guitar and be great at playing? You know what I mean? Like he's bad at this. And then he went 17 of 19. I just don't understand mentally and physically what happened.
I do know that Chris Paul was talking shit in the game before. You remember that? He said, we all expect Giannis to miss. And that motherfucker went out there and went 17 for 19. I don't know if that lit a fire in him or what. But Giannis is a dude who might not address shit, but, you know, I think that he does, you know, internalize the shit that gets talked about him and use it to push him, because he definitely took a shot at Harden with that super team shit last night that he said. So, and you know, those two have been going at it.
The first thing he tweeted today was about Batman. He retweeted a Batman, Aquaman, Superman champion.
And when you said he took a shot at Harden, I thought you were gonna, because Tyler, I think, believes he literally threw that ball at Harden on purpose a couple of years ago.
I do, bro.
Like that,
I really do. I need some behind the scenes explanations of that shit. I think Giannis did that on purpose. It's a way better story to think about it that way, at least.
I think part of what makes that accessible to him is I really believe that great video that I'm sure you guys talked about, everybody saw, where he's talking with PJ Tucker at practice. He's like, I airball free throws.
Yeah.
Don't care. I believe him. I believe that he is not afraid of being embarrassed. And that is an odd superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Like with politics, like shamelessness opens a whole new world to you. Like if you're Matt Gaetz and you're like under investigation for, you know, a statutory rape, and you're like, I am still going to hold rallies and I'm going to talk, like, it's like, well, that opens something new to you that a regular politician doesn't have accessible to him, right? If you are not afraid of being embarrassed, then I think you are more likely to, if you get in a rhythm, be like, well, let's stay in this rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only that he went, though, there was a stretch where he looked like a great free throw shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all looked perfect. Like I was like, wait, why does he ever miss these?
Right.
And so I couldn't believe it. It was a shocking subplot last night.
Yeah, so going back to what you said about how he's not afraid to fail and how that's a superpower. We saw that manifest literally on a play last night, and it's the play where he caught the defender with the pump fake from three, because he had shot a three in the first quarter, right? And then you know, defender close out on him when he was about to shoot from three, pump fake, you know, jab step, you know, spin move bucket, right? And that's because he's not afraid to fail, because you know, Giannis is a guy who he's not one of those guys who gets low in the post and volleys for position and backs you down. He's a guy who needs to drive. So shooting a three is how he keeps defenses honest and opens those driving lanes up for him. And he was 3 for 14 this whole series, but it didn't matter. It kept defenses honest. And like I said, we saw that manifest in a bucket on that play.
In the block, right. during the block, the block we've all talked about, he said,
the block on the lob. Right.
I thought I was going to get dunked on. He thought he was going to get dunked on. Didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Change the game. Change the series with that fucking block. You know what I'm saying? So that makes a bunch of sense. But it's just wild. In the fourth quarter, Giannis gets fouled and there's a bucket. Either he fucking scored or got free throws. He never left the paint butt naked. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He got his every time he went in the paint.
And by the way, and this is, and I know everyone, you know, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people are like, well, you know, Brooklyn, if they're healthy, which is a hell of an if, when one of your big three and Kyrie's been healthy for 2 playoff runs his whole career. But set that aside. Now that Giannis, I think, has unlocked something greater, what we also have to recognize, he did this against one of the only teams in the league with a legit center. Like, if there was it, like, Ayton is Giannis's same height and weighs more. So, like, what people, for example, I don't think this would be the case, but if next year's finals were Bucks, Mavs, because Luka takes a quadruple leap, or he doesn't even have to take that. Like, what will Giannis do against a team that plays small? What would he do against Brooklyn, more so than he did in that series. Like, there aren't many DeAndre Aytons walking around. Like, Embiid theoretically should give him trouble.
It's going to be a good couple drafts for big, fat, mean guys, like
right. Bullies. We looking for bullies. What do you need in this draft? A fucking bully. That's what the fuck need, bro.
That's crazy. That's
six fouls. That's what the fuck we need.
Yeah, we need 6 hard fouls.
Right.
In the second half. I think do you feel like, Nick, that fearlessness comes a little bit from how un-American he is? Like, they're putting up all the interviews, his pre-draft interviews, and he was saying, even as he was preparing to be a first-round draft pick, his dream was to be an NBA player.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to American kids, and I'm not one of those guys who criticize AAU, whatever else. If you talk to kids, no one in their draft prep is saying, my dream is to make it to the NBA. Their dream is, I want to be like this player. I want this accomplishment. Giannis just wanted to get to the league and feed his parents and his brothers. You know what I mean? And so you do feel like there's a joy in everything he does, that everything is gravy, and he understands that more than most players.
Well, you mentioned his brothers. I think all of that. I also think it might be sneaky important, not only that his brother is on the Bucks, but that it's his big brother.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, Giannis is so grounded. He's so humble. I wonder how much of that is the fact that Thanasis is right there. And if he ever strays of it, can probably check his ass. Because that's still his big brother. And when Giannis is like, this is one of the fascinating dynamics that I think of. And I'd really like a deep dive into Thanasis. Because there's a period, it has to have been, of Thanasis's life as like a teen where he thought, okay, this is like, our life in Greece, selling stuff on the street, whatever it was, struggling to get by. This is life now. Like, this is what my parents do. This is what it's going to be. And then, so like, Giannis was always Giannis, and Kostas, the younger brother, always had like 2 big brothers who were awesome, and one of them's who's a superhero. So I wonder how much of it is Thanasis is there, which is why I thought it was so great last night when he's FaceTiming. He's like, he was trying to convince Thanasis to come to the stadium, and Thanasis was like, I can't. Then he's like, all right, I'm coming to your hotel, and I'm breaking down the door. Thanasis like, I won't let you in. It seems so genuine and organic, and I think listen, there's a ton of the NBA that had an incredibly rough upbringing, but I do think Giannis, that family's is a little different.
I would agree. I have no addition to that. That makes a ton of fucking sense. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree.
I think the next time you're on vacation anywhere and there's, you go to Europe, you go to Mexico, wherever, there's kids trying to sell you something, you think about that kid turns into fucking Giannis. I mean, it's like sincerely. And I like, because I think, at least for me, you always have a ton of empathy for people. Like, these kids are out here hustling. They're trying to fucking make a living. Like, the dude was literally selling knockoff watches on the fucking streets of Athens, and he's Giannis now. I mean, it really is. If you actually really think about that shit and think about what it would be like to live that, I think you can see Adam Silver was just like a pig in fucking shit last night. Like, this dude is going to be the face of it. Like, this is everything that we would ever dream of, an international player, but who's beloved here. You know what I mean? Like, it is really one of the absolute craziest fucking stories in sports that you could dream up.
I also think, Tyler, because listen, Joel Embiid grew up in Cameroon, right? But he went to high school in the States and went to a year of college. And I think the difference between Embiid and like how they are in social media and how they are in the league and all that stuff and Giannis is maybe a great little miniature case study in how quickly American culture, for good or for bad, if it gets its hooks in you when you're like in your formative teen years, like Joel Embiid has the same Twitter usage rate as Tyler. And it's like, he grew up in Cameroon, but he got to the States young enough that he's like, nope, I'm about this life. Giannis didn't get here until he was a pro, and it's just totally different.
So he'll just comment on a picture of himself saying, I almost pooped. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but like, he doesn't even look at his background, and like, he doesn't dwell on that in the way that most would. Like, he wanted to go back to his roots and have a garage sale celebrating how good of a salesman he is. Like he's not one of the fucking aliens in the fucking NBA now.
The story, Nick, I don't know if you saw it, and for any of our readers who didn't see it, we were talking about it in the group chat. It was a couple years ago, I want to say it was 2017, that he was moving and he wanted to have a yard sale. And he, specifically because of what John said, he said, one of my gifts is that I'm great at selling things. And so he wanted to get $10 for the DVD instead of $5. Like that was valuable to him to do that. And the Bucks convinced him that he'd have 4,000 people showing up.
They convinced him that he's Giannis. He thought he was John.
Right.
He thought 8 people would be out there. The neighbors would show up. Nigga, you finna bring 65K motherfuckers to your front door. You know what I mean? Do you not know this? You don't realize this? But that's the beauty of Giannis, though. That's part of the beauty of him.
And all those stories are legendary. He would collect when he saw his teammates, some of them would get rid of shoes after a game. He collected them and took them. When first time he had the team buffet and they're like, yeah, you can have to-go plates. And he would just take a bunch and bring them home. Like that is like those things. And the story that I always believed must not be true, but it is true evidently, that I assume people know, but I'll retell it anyway, is the Western Union story, which is the greatest. The guy sent all his money home, then realized I need to get to practice and didn't have cab money. So he's just running. Can you imagine if you're the car that picks him up? At this point, it's not 7 feet, but a 6 foot 10 inch 19-year-old black guy just running down the streets of Milwaukee.
She's driving a Honda Fit too. She's driving the smallest sedan you could possibly be driving.
I mean, it's the greatest. It does sound made up. And the other part of these finals, and one of the people I host the show with, Kevin Wildes, pointed this out, so I want to give him credit, that I thought was interesting was his press conferences did take on a LeBron CEO of the league feel. Like these are important moments where wisdom is going to be imparted. Like that's one of the things that always to me separated, and I'm not trying to do this, but LeBron and KD was LeBron seemed to always understand the importance of who he was. Meanwhile, KD's like, I'm hopping on this Twitter Spaces with Light Years season 22, and I'm arguing with things. Like,
and he happily does not give a fuck about that part of his job.
What are you talking about? KD, at one point, KD's like, I don't own a hairbrush. And LeBron's like, let me debut this Tom Ford short suit that will become a new trend. Like, there was just a very different thing. And Giannis felt to me like he was trying to take on that role as well. Like, I'm going to hold court and impart my wisdom even as a 26-year-old, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he's perhaps the best interview in the league right now. Like, yeah, you know, and you know, everyone's talking about, I don't know if this guy can be the face of the league. Yes, the fuck he can. You put a mic in front of that dude and it's magic. He absolutely can be the face of the league.
Well, we were talking.
Why would they question that? What are they wondering why he wouldn't be the face of the league? Like
because people are fucking stupid, bro. And every question has to have a both sides answer, right? But Nick asked about kids, and I always look at sports through the eyes of my kids because that's how the people who run the leagues are trying to look at it, right? And my 5-year-old daughter loves Giannis now, loves him. You know what I mean? Because he's funny and he's sweet. I showed her the video of the little girl who showed him the drawings of him.
It's so good.
And it came out, right? I mean,
so
absolutely. Good. Like teared up, completely teared up the first time I watched it. And like that's like Adam Silver could not have scripted a better dude to become the face of the league.
Bro,
seriously.
he was on IG.
Looking for.
He was on IG Live earlier today, riding around with the Finals MVP trophy, letting kids in his neighborhood touch it.
Come on,
bro. Like this dude is different, man, in the best fucking way.
Before going to Chick-fil-A to order 50 chicken minis.
And by the way, the Chick-fil-A thing, if people are, and I understand, maybe a little prison in the moment, maybe it's a little over the top. You know what I thought was the best part of the Chick-fil-A video with Giannis? He asked the lady, "Do you care if I put you on camera?"
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like noteworthy.
Yeah.
Because he's right.
he told her how many people were watching.
That's
He says
what
there's
I'm saying.
150,000
And
people
by the
watching
way,
it.
when he said that, I was like, damn. Giannis had more people on IG this morning than I had on TV. That sucks, but good for him. But he told her. And I thought I was like, that's a super aware, considerate thing. Because not only are you going on camera, but you're going on camera to the world. It was 180,000 people live, but now, how many people live viewed that? 20 million? Because it was like a great viral moment. I just think he's got a good awareness. And the press conference thing, two things about his press conferences. One is he says the word great in like the accent on that specific word is phenomenal. And the other one is the press conference right before the playoffs. He was asked, he's like, how can you guarantee that these playoffs will go differently than the last two? And he's paused and he goes, oh, I can't guarantee that. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I hope they will, but who knows?
He said, I think he's like, it absolutely could end the way that it's ended before. Like, right. That's very possible.
Right. He's like, it could. He was like, but I try not to get too high or too low. And he kept that mindset. And Tyler, I think you've pointed out on Twitter a few times, like, people have tried to hit him with arrows. Like, oh, you said KD's the best player in the world. That means this. Oh, you said Chris Middleton can be the closer. That means that. But what it means is, evidently, in the biggest game of his life, he can score 50 points. Evidently, that's what it means. Like, that he has the not only self-awareness, but composure and all of that to rise to the biggest occasion of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. All and it might go back to him not being American and not knowing how we, mythologize, sports figures here and how you're not supposed to admit a guy's better than you and all that bullshit. Giannis doesn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? He said KD is the best player in the world, and then he went out there and worked that dude in the post for a bucket that locked that game 7 up, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So the darts you try to throw at Giannis, he doesn't care. He's like, I don't give a shit about any narratives, any overarching themes here. I'm just out here trying to win basketball games. And he won the most important ones this fucking season.
I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely right.
What's the best word in Giannis's accent? Is it great? I would vote for
is pretty good.
I would vote for tinkle.
Tinkle, bro. Tinkle.
Okay.
Right after talking about ego, you know what I mean? Like the balance, you know what I mean? It's ego and pride, and then I had to tinkle. Like it's special, bro. It's special.
But by the way, also the tinkle thing's definitely a lie, right? He's
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
He's too amped up early in those games. People, I thought, honest to God, after in game 5, there was a moment where it was a minute into the second half.
Yeah.
And Van Gundy's like, Giannis is already tired.
Right.
And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, he has COVID. His brother is in the protocol. They live together. And I was like, maybe he hasn't tested positive yet. But I thought that I was like, for a moment there, I thought, oh, that's what's happening is like, and it's going to be a total disaster. But I was overthinking it. He just gets so amped up that before the game or at halftime, he like when it starts, he needs like the moment to recompose himself because he's not tired at the end of these games. He's tired at the beginning of the games, which is kind of crazy. But if you're like, oh, he needs to work on his conditioning. It's not his conditioning. He's just too amped up too early. At least I think that's what it is.
I thought it was anxiety.
An
anxiety attack. I thought
he definitely didn't have to pee. No one has to pee at the start of the game.
But he did. I mean? He didn't go pee. If you have to pee that's bad, the other thing. Don't go pee.
He didn't leave. He didn't go anywhere.
Bro, you had it. I mean,
he also just can't lie. Like you know what I mean? He hasn't lived here long enough to be good at lying yet. Maybe I have no idea. But like he had that I'm a 8-year-old kid smile on his face when he said I have to tinkle. And like it looks like he's saying it because he's saying I have to tinkle, but he's making the same face he makes when he's telling the constipation joke. Like he's smiling like that because he knows he's getting one over.
You know what? It's the exact face he made when somebody, I don't know if you guys saw the part of the press conference yesterday, near the end, I think somebody said, hey, you sent a tweet when you were 19 that, you'll never leave Milwaukee until you deliver a championship. And he made the exact same face. He goes, that's right. I can leave now. I demand a trade. He said, who do I talk to about demanding a trade? He said, now I can leave. But it's the exact same facial expression of like, oh, I'm about to make a joke. Watch this here.
Right.
He's the best. I love him. He's the best.
He is the best. You're the best, Nick. Thanks for hopping on with us, man. We appreciate you. End of a very long and weird basketball season, but we appreciate you hopping on with us and come back anytime.
Mike, once I use my platform to try to deliver Chris Paul to the Lakers, if that happens, will you vouch for me that I can at least, I don't need to be in Laker Nation, but can I at least be like no longer one of the people that just has random stones thrown at them by people with Kobe avatars? That's what I want. I just want to not open Instagram one day and have a DM that says SMD. And it's a Photoshop of me in a bathtub with LeBron. Like, can you maybe pull some strings?
I'm a lifelong Lakers fan. I am one of these crazy people, and I had real life friends of mine, not media, like real life friends of mine I grew up with, mad at me for getting on a podcast with Tyler because people felt like he didn't like Kobe enough.
Yeah, I know. Which was so fucking wrong. Which is so wrong. I love Kobe. It just got a bit outrageous with people, trying to boost Kobe up to break Bron down.
Oh, don't do
that's
Tyler.
The only time I took
Don't do it. Don't do it. We're talking about how cuddly Giannis is.
I'll talk
Be in the
bathtub
bathtub with Bron very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So appreciate you, Nick, man.
Peace.
Our thanks to the homie Nick for joining us. Any other thoughts from the game? I think the only thing I had on the list that we didn't get to was the crowd. Is there any moment that you would stand around outside to watch with 65,000 strangers? I don't think I would have been there.
Doing a pandy.
Yeah. I can't imagine that. That crowd was fucking crazy. Shout out to them. They had a great time, obviously, but that shit was nuts watching it from my home.
The Deer District.
The Deer District.
What a shitty fucking name. Right. How you go corporate with some fucking deer, bro? Like, the Deer District. Like, these deer sound like some fucking attorneys out there or something. Some fucking accountants. The Deer District.
Good on that. Yeah. Hard pass for sure. And that traffic would have beat my ass, so I want no part of that shit for sure. Ski.
And these are probably people that are not accustomed to traffic in the way that we're accustomed to traffic. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't know. Anyway, it's been a wild NBA season. I think we're all happy to have it over, quite frankly. Would you agree with that, John, in particular?
Yes, I do want to say that it's Mr. Street Shark from here on out, though. I think that's how we're going to talk about Giannis from here on. Mr. Street Shark or Big Street Shark. You know what I mean? That's what we're going with. You
I was going to say it was Shark Week for most of the finals.
The universe, bro. It's all aligned. I'm telling you.
Go ahead.
We had a really good finals for a very shitty season. And Giannis's performance was just like, the cherry on top of the fucking turd pile that was this NBA season. So,
because all you can ever ask for from an NBA finals is, did I see something I'm going to remember? And I will remember that game for sure. I did also want to mention, because we referenced this 100 times, at LA Sabree, at LASABREE, tweeted at Tyler to say, I am the one who wrote into you to call the LeBron James of Chris Middleton's. And he officially says he would like to walk that back now. So we were trying to get him on the pod because I thought that would be a funny way to end the
Chris
NBA.
Middleton has arrived. Chris Middleton is now the LeBron James of Paul George's.
It's stamped.
It has been inversed.
He might be the Giannis of Paul George's, to be completely honest.
Shit.
I mean.
Oh, is that where we going? Because that's a shot at Bronny, baby. Oh, no.
All right. Thanks to everyone for fucking with us through the NBA season. There will be plenty of weird shit coming up on the podcast, as well as sports shit. John is so excited. He can't even contain himself.
Keep Jenkins and Jones weird, niggas. Let's go. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks for fucking with us. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that to the most tenable podcast on the internet. We'll see y'all on Monday.
It is untenable.